These are the parts needed for a typical SMB003 installation. The SMB003, also known as the pencil gauge. You will need two end blocks that have two different set screws. One has a cone point, the other a flat point. You need to remember this as this is important. You will need two spot weld screws, a hose clamp, two hex nuts, two nylon insert hex nuts, the protective cover with its vent tubing. You will also need, in the case of a key load, a CMK series cable with a small connector, and in the case of a Sentinel or a Quick 3 system, a PPG series cable which has a larger connector. We first start by finding the center point of where we'll be installing the SMB003. In this case of the Hendrickson beam, we'll be locating the center point from the bushing to the bushing to bushing, in this case 15 inches. So we will be taking a jigged pencil. We call it a jigged pencil. It's just a nice piece of steel which holds the two end blocks. We do not use the SMB003 to do the job because we can damage it and permanently damaging the SMB003. So now that we've located the center point, all we'll do is just mark where we'll be cleaning or grinding the beam to prepare the surface for welding. Okay, just make sure you've got enough area. Do not over grind. Don't take too much material off. Just make sure you take enough just to have a clean surface. Don't worry about little bumps and stuff. That will not interfere with the installation. We'll grind enough surface so we can weld the spot weld screws on the beam itself. So in this case, we take a little more space here. So remember, when you're using power tools, to wear protective eyewear and gloves. So we will be using the grinder. Now that we've prepared the surface, we can just locate the end blocks where they'll be welded with the jig pencil, and we'll get ready with the welding machine. We will be welding the end blocks in a sequence, and like this, here, here, and there. That will prevent the blocks from just welding. Once welded, verify that the welds are nice and strong. Don't be scared to give it a good tap. You will also notice that the welds are very small. You don't need much more than a 1/4 inch tack weld. Once this is done, we can locate the center point for the enclosure and tack weld the weld screws over here. Remove the enclosure. And let cool for about 20 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes. Make sure it's nice and cool before you come back and work on this. Temperature does affect the pencil gauge, thus you got to make sure that this is nice and cool. Once cooled, you can remove the jig base to insert the pencil gauge. Now remember to put the slotted end of the pencil gauge with the cone head set screw. Very important. Now you want also to put the hose clamp, make it easier for you on the long run. Make sure that you tighten the set screw, the cone head set screw within the slot. Tighten, but do not overdo it. Using the plucker, insert the cable end of the plucker on the flat part of the pencil gauge and turn the plucker on. Now our target is to reach within 78 and 80. Anywhere between that is good. So 79 being optimum. Now what I need to do is to extend the pencil, pulling it apart. Now we don't want to overdo it to break it, but you will have to pull on it to make sure that you've got the correct reading, which is close to 79. Now I will be using my fingers and my thumb like this, using my thumb for leverage to pull this way. Then I'm getting ready to tighten the screw. Once we hit the target, we get the target reading, we want to make sure we're gonna tighten the screw here. Now this is not always easy to do. Be patient, make sure you are close to 79, which is between 78 and 80. I don't know if you can hear this, but there is a plucking sound, a ding ding sound. And you can relate to that after a while. You'll notice that the pitch gets higher and higher. Now remember, my target is 79. Now I'm at 77. I'm at 80. 79, 80. 79, 90. 79, 98 is pretty good. Now I'm gonna make sure that I'm gonna have at least 6, 7, even 10 constant readings at 79.99 or 98 is very, very good. Make sure not to use this with a fluorescent lighting close by. You will affect the reading, and you will not be able to get to the correct target. Once you're done plucking your MPG003 or your pencil gauge, make sure that you did not bend it. You can end up with something like this, and that will not work. So you make sure that it's nice and straight. Put the cable end on it. Use your hose clamp to retain it. You can tighten pretty good, but don't overdo it. Just as long as it's nice and snug, it doesn't move around. Once you're happy with that, you can put everything inside your enclosure. You do have a slot on the side for the cable to come out. Okay. Use your nylon insert nuts. Now what you want to also do is to make sure you're not going to over tighten the cover on the structure. So that's why you have the other hex nuts under there to prevent that. Just make sure you're nice and snug, bring it back up. What you want to do is sandwich the whole thing. The small angles here, you want to sandwich those. Now, just tighten those. Once the whole thing is tightened, you're happy with it, you can insert your vent tubing. Once you've done tightening your cover on top, just put a bead of silicone around the enclosure. Make sure you put your vent tubing facing down, and voila, that is it. Your cable is routed to the keyload or to the Sentinel or the Quick 3 multiplexers.